Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Steebee Weebee Show. This episode is sponsored by Scent Bird. We have a very special guest tonight. Please welcome for the first time, DJ Reid Speed.
Howdy ho. What up?
Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, finally. We had Caroline on here. You're highly recommended.
Heck yeah.
And everything. How are you feeling?
Good.
Okay.
Chilling.
Cheers on LaCroix.
Cheers.
That's crazy. So you're allergic to Jewel.
I'm allergic to propylene glycol.
Oh, wow.
Fun facts. Which is the main ingredient in fog juice, which is what they have at all the raves. So it makes my job very difficult.
I did not know that. Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So how did it, we have a lot to talk, because I want to go through your whole history as far as DJing. How did you get the name Reid Speed?
When I was a young raver, when I first started learning how to DJ, I had my first DJ friend. His name was Dark Star.
Mm-hmm. And shout out to Dark Star.
I don't even know if he's still active anymore. But I was just so excited to be having anyone who knew how to DJ let me hang out with them. And we'd be walking places and I'd be talking to everyone, or so I thought. And then all of a sudden I'd look and everyone would be like a block behind me. And he said, oh, that's because you walk at Reid Speed and you talk at Reid Speed. And then he's like, that should just be your DJ name. And so it has been.
Oh, dang. And what year was this?
That was 1996.
Dang, 96.
Yeah, my senior year of high school.
Okay.
Old people crew,
all
shout
right.
out.
Can we shout out your high school as well?
Not really worth it. The high school I went to that was fun was called Andover Phillips Academy, but I didn't last very long there, and then I ended up in some alternative school.
Is this in California?
No, I'm from New York, so
damn.
But Phillips Academy's in Massachusetts. It's one of those fancy prep schools.
Oh, wow. What was it like growing up on the East Coast there?
Where I grew up was on Long Island. It was very snobby and very white, very homogenous, very boring.
There was no ethnics people?
Not really.
Okay.
We got one African-American student in the 6th grade that joined our class, and that was like...
One.
There were 28 people in my grade. From kindergarten through 8th grade,
God.
It was the same 28 people.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And when did you decide to move to California?
That was about 2002. I had met my husband, and we had been long distance for a year, and it was just at that point where it was either one of us is going to move or we should just break up. So I decided I would move since I can do my job from anywhere.
Wow, that's a big step to move from your place in New York.
It was, because I really had no fond feelings about LA at the time. I was a New Yorker through and through, and I thought LA was kind of a whack city. But
why is that?
Because I don't like driving. Driving sucks and traffic sucks and everything's really spread out. And I grew up I lived in Manhattan for 4 years. For college, and then I moved to Brooklyn. So I was used to public transit and
Me too.
Where are you from?
San Diego.
Okay.
But I don't have a car.
Yeah.
I haven't had a car. How long, Craig? 15 years.
Good for you.
I ride the Red Line. I ride the 704. I ride the 4. I ride the
bikes.
2. Yeah.
Yeah, I like to ride bikes.
Why is it that people in Los Angeles say that you need a car? Because I'm still alive.
They say that because in the 1950s, the rubber and car companies colluded to buy all the remaining railroads and pave over them. And now we're screwed.
Wow. I mean, but you obviously drove here. Huh?
I did. I drove all the way across the country.
In what kind of car?
I bought my mom's 1998 Toyota Camry. So that was my car. I
Camry?
had that car for like 10 years until it got totaled.
Camrys are solid.
It was pretty solid.
My dream car is a Toyota Corolla. That's like my dream car. And hopefully if this podcast keeps doing well, which it is, right, guys? Yeah. Then maybe one day I could buy a 2012 used Toyota Corolla. What do you think about that?
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I support this decision.
As far as your music upbringing, like what kinds of bands and music were you listening to?
Growing up, I had a very unconventional childhood, I guess. My parents didn't really let me do anything normal, but they did take me to the opera and like Lincoln Center a lot and Broadway shows and things like that. So I grew up playing violin and the piano.
Me too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, violin and piano.
I learned by the Suzuki method, which is by
Me
listening.
too.
No way.
Yeah, I remember the Suzuki method.
It was cool.
Ozzy's music. Yeah, the Suzuki method. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty cool, but then I didn't really like violin, and then I switched to piano. I didn't really like any of this. I wish I had.
Yeah.
I wish I had found a use for it sooner, because it probably would have helped me in what I do now. But I didn't last very long with all of that. I really hated it.
Okay.
So I quit those lessons. Well, my piano teacher, basically broke up with me when I was 12 because she found out I couldn't read music because I had learned by the Suzuki method, where you learn by listening and not reading music. And I was too young at the time I did the violin, so I never got to the part of that program where you're supposed to learn to read the music. So I didn't know. And I had been taking piano for 4 years, just doing it by ear. And then one day she's like, how you didn't turn the page? And I'm like, for what?
Oh,
and she was like, oh no, I can't teach you anymore if you can't read music. And then I was so happy to be free of piano lessons.
And I think, I never had fun.
No,
as
it
well.
sucked.
Yeah, it sucked.
But like, so I got into all kinds of weird music when I was, so because I wasn't allowed to do anything fun, I guess I wasn't allowed to watch TV when I was a kid.
Why?
Because my parents thought it was bad for you. So I was only allowed to watch basically 2 hours a week, which meant, and it was only like certain things.
Like
and,
what? Family Ties?
My chosen programs were like the A-Team and Knight Rider were like the two
dude,
I remember being
the
like
A-Team,
all
Mr.
about
T,
those. Like, hell
yeah.
yeah. Those were the ones.
Yeah.
But like, so I was very out of the loop. Like I had nothing in common with my peers and couldn't socialize with them. I didn't know anything about what was going on with anything.
Yeah.
So I basically started memorizing all the songs on the radio just so I would know something that other kids were talking about, culturally relevant.
Nice. What kind of radio stations were you tuning into?
Oh, I mean, like whatever, pop radio, Keski-Pukkil's Weekly Top 40.
I
would
remember
memorize
Keski-Pukkila.
that.
Yeah, I remember Casey. You remember Keski-Pukkila? Yeah. Explain to the listeners and viewers who Keski-Pukkila was.
Okay, he's like he's probably dead now.
I think he's dead.
But he was like.
But who was he?
Keski-Pukkila was like the original Billboard top 100 chart, but it was the top 40, and he would go on the radio every, I don't know, Saturday maybe, and he would play the 40 hottest songs in the country every week. And so I would just listen to it.
I was jealous of him because of his voice.
He had a great voice.
He had such an animated voice.
He did. I have a funny story about one of my favorite bands later about that, but
okay.
I don't know if we'll ever get to that.
No, we will.
But anyway, because I don't know, I didn't really even like any of the music I heard on the radio. I just didn't have any other way to relate to other children. So that was a thing that I did. And then when I started going to summer camp, I got into weird music. I think the first band that I actually liked on my own was probably They Might Be Giants. And then,
I remember them. Yeah.
I still listen to them to this day.
Yeah.
But then it was like, I don't know. I got into Nirvana and Metallica.
Yep.
And then I started getting into like metal, like Pantera and Slayer and things like that.
But what about Depeche Mode?
I wasn't super into the Depeche Mode.
Okay.
But I mean, they were played on the radio, so like I had some knowledge of that.
Or The Cure?
That was like later. When I was in high school, when my friends started making me mixtapes, when I went away to high school, I started getting into cool music like Dinosaur Jr., Sonic Youth, The Cure, Depeche Mode.
Yeah.
Sebadoh, the Pixies, Violent
Sebadough's
Femmes.
the jam.
Yeah.
You know about Sebadoh?
Yeah.
Oh, that's the
Lou
jam.
Barlow
Yeah.
and, like, I don't know. That I was into all the
Skateboarding
like.
videos played that. That's how I discovered that group, because they'd play it in skate videos. I'm like,
See, I wanted to skate. I wasn't allowed to skate. I wasn't allowed to do
Yeah,
anything.
Sebadoh.
Nothing.
Keep going. I like what you're doing with the nostalgia here.
Okay, so and then it was things like 9 Inch Nails and like Skinny Puppy, Ministry, whatnot. What would come from that? But it
Yeah.
was all like alternative music. And then when I was 15, a bunch of things, crazy things happened. The powers that be didn't want me to be going to this crazy school. I was going to this very good school. I had basically. I don't even know how to explain this. Behind my parents' back, I applied to a bunch of really fancy prep schools because I wanted to get the hell away from my parents because they wouldn't let me do anything. So I got into like the top 10 prep schools in the country, and then I presented my parents with this like, hey guys, look what I did. Aren't you proud of me? And they were like, wow, cool. Yeah, okay, you're going to go to awesome boarding school. Great. So I was like, sweet. And then, I made a bunch of friends there, and all my friends were cool, and we got to do things like go to Dinosaur Jr. concerts and go see Sebadoh, and like that was really awesome. But then I got into some trouble there, and we'll shorten the story down to I had to take a leave of absence, and my parents put me in a mental hospital for smoking pot.
Whoa.
And that was not cool.
Wow.
So that led to me deciding that I would run away from home after that was over because they wanted me to go to drug rehab for like 2 years. And I'm like, you guys don't understand how weed works. Like, that's not how it works. There's no weed in my system. I've been in a mental hospital for 4 months. Like,
that's crazy.
That's not how it works. Meanwhile, they're putting me on all these crazy drugs like Adderall and Seroquel and trying to put me on lithium and Haldol and crazy stuff where I'm like, yo, I'm like a normal adolescent teenager. Like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I smoke pot. It's not a big deal. I drank a couple of times, like big whoop, but they were like, oh my God, you're crazy and out of control and you're going to die and we're really worried. And like none of that was necessary. And so I ended up running away from home. I went to Boulder, Colorado, where I started going to raves.
And that's where it started.
Yeah. I had been to like one rave before that, but I
It
didn't
started
understand
right there.
it. It did. It started
Yep.
Boulder, Colorado, this rave called Eden. I went. DJ Dan played. He played funky breaks at like 4 a.m, 5 a.m. when the sun was rising. And it was like, it changed my life. All of a sudden I realized I had been making mixtapes for my friends. Like growing up, that was like my passion project was just.
Explain to the viewers and listeners what a tape is.
Okay, a cassette tape was like, in the 80s when we didn't have CDs or Spotify or anything else. You had to make these physical tapes that were
physical tape.
Tape, magnetized. I don't know what it's made out of. Mylar.
Yeah, mixtapes
Yeah,
or compilations where it was like a variety pack.
Yeah, but I would make them myself. I would record the music I wanted off of the radio, and then I would put them or off of my own cassettes or CDs and put them into a compilation for my friends.
I made a couple of those for girls I had crushes on, but I never ended up giving it to them.
Oh, then you missed out.
Well, I would just listen to them by myself. And then I remember, do you remember Sam Goody's?
Yeah.
Or the Warehouse record store?
Warehouse Music.
Yeah, Warehouse Music. So Warehouse Music, Tower Records, and Sam Goody's were actual physical record stores.
East Coast was Tower Records.
Yeah, Tower Records. But I remember on a whim, I bought Susie and the Banshees tape, and I didn't know what I bought. And I put it in my Walkman, and I didn't get it right away, and I was trying to force myself to like it. But then later in life, I didn't get it like in 7th or 8th grade.
Yeah, it's hard. I think a lot of stuff goes over our heads when we don't
Yeah.
understand the subject matter, and you're like, what are they talking about? I don't know.
And do you remember the B-52s?
I remember the song Push It by Salt and Pepper, and I remember explaining to my friends, like Miss Know-It-All, that song was absolutely about having a baby because they kept saying, push it real good.
Oh, push it real good. Oh, is it about having a baby?
No.
Oh, because you have to push the baby.
That's just what I thought because I didn't understand.
Push it was having a baby.
I
Push
did.
the baby out. Oh, push it real good. Do. Oh my God. Damn. Now I'm like really taking a walk down memory lane. I'm thinking about Boys to Men.
Yeah, think about all those songs you didn't
SWV.
understand.
What about SWV, Sisters with Voices?
I mean,
They had some great songs.
when I was a kid, that was not on my radar. Like, I
Okay.
didn't get into
I
rap
love
or
R&B.
R&B.
I love R&B.
Not till later. I was like, I think when I was a kid, the only rap that I knew was like MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice.
I went to the MC Hammer concert.
Oh my
I
god!
bought the bootleg T-shirt, and with that, we have to go to our ad read by Scentbird. Sorry, it's gonna take. So this episode is brought to you by Scentbird. Scentbird is a luxury fragrance subscription service. Choose cologne or perfumes that you want, and they'll send you a 30-day supply. They have over 120 sprays, and then more than 450 designer brands like Hugo Boss and Polo, and so on and so on. Go to Scentbird.com/Steebee, Steebee, and use code Steebee, Steebee, for 50% off your first month today. That's only $7.50 for your first fragrance. Sign on and smell amazing. Back to MC Hammer. So it was MC Hammer, and there's an R&B group called Troop. Do you remember that song? Spread my wings. Anyway, I went to that concert, and then I also went to a Depeche Mode concert in the 8th grade, and I was embarrassed because my mom had to drive me and my date, Nicole Diarman.
You were allowed to have a date in 8th grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
But my mom, we was supervised by my Korean mother. And so it was at the San Diego Sports Arena, and I remember running in just to see the setup. I'm like, oh my God, Depeche Mode, music for the masses. And then there was no instruments. There was only 4 keyboards. I mean, there was 4 keyboards.
Yep.
I thought there was good, and that's when I realized electronic music could be made by just that, a keyboard.
Yeah. Pretty
So
wild.
let's go back to some of your the music that you're into as well. Like
from which point on?
I don't know. Oh, the rave.
Oh,
so
the
in
rave.
Colorado,
Oh yeah.
you stumbled upon a rave,
Yeah.
and you just got it.
I immediately, I was like, oh goodness, this is the thing I was like put on this earth to do. I was like, I must figure out how I can do this because this is what I need to do. So that night, that morning when the rave was over, I went back to my friend's house and took all of his music library because I didn't have any music like that. And I made my first dance music mixtape from his music library.
Oh, wow.
And the rest was history.
Did you, I know that, like, because you guys, the rave culture gets a lot of this. I mean, did you trip out on LSD or eat mushrooms?
The first time I didn't. I was sober. My friends had something for me, and they dropped it in the dirt, and we couldn't find it. And I just ended up being sober, and it was great. It was like the best time ever.
Right.
I was like, this is great.
And then what kind of, because there's subcultures in rave, like what type of rave music did you like? Because there's drum and bass, there's house, there's electro break beats.
I mean, I would say at first I didn't know the difference, but I was always attracted to the break beats and the drum and bass because when I would go to these raves, I would notice, like I was such a dancer. I was really into dancing. Like for me, going to a rave was like probably why people like go to church. It was some kind of spiritual communion for my soul. I would just go to dance and doing this dance was like making this offering to your spirit gods or whatever. I don't know what I was thinking, but that's what it felt like. And when I would go to the drum and bass area or if there was a jungle DJ playing, I would notice that people would dance better to that. So I was always gravitated towards that music. I guess it was also faster. I never really liked like deep house. I liked kind of fast techno, kind of hardcore. But then once I'd been going for like, I don't know, probably 6 months, I knew what was what. And I was like all about jungle, drum and bass. Well, it was jungle back then.
Yeah,
drum and bass didn't happen till later.
I have a good homie. Have you heard of Kip Killigan? Mm-mm. Oh, he lives in Arizona, but he spins drum and bass. Oh, you've heard of RAW?
Yeah.
Yeah. So shout out to Raul. I reached out to him as well, and he that's kind of triggered my memory because I didn't follow up with that. I need to maybe go reach out to him as well.
You should. He's one of the originals from LA.
So explain who RAW is to LA and to the culture.
RAW is like one of the original junglists of LA. It was like back in the day, RAW, APX1, Machete, Deacon, they were like the dudes doing it. The Junglist Platoon, which I can't remember the name of the other crew. It's totally escaping my mind that they were in APX and REW, but they were like the dudes.
They were the dudes.
They were the dudes doing the thing here before anyone else was doing it.
So what do you mean by that? They would like get a spot like in downtown in a warehouse. They would just throw their own jams.
I mean, I don't know. I wasn't here.
Right.
I was in New York.
I
didn't meet them till much later, but I know that they were around from back in those days.
And they were like at the top. They were like the main.
I mean, they were like the people. Jungle drum and bass was never really the most popular genre at any of the raves. It was always kind of side room, redheaded stepchild music. So I mean, I'm sure they were doing their own events. And there was a brief time in the 90s where drum and bass was having a moment, like in New York, from probably late 97 to late 99. We had 7 nights a week of poppin' drum and bass parties. Like it would be locals or headliners, but 7 days a week you could find drum and bass and it would be packed every night of the week.
How much for a ticket? How do you find the, how was?
No, it was like most of them were free. Like I guess the ones on the weekends probably charge, like Direct Drive, one of the ones I was a resident at. I think that when it was like $5 or $10 to get in, but Concrete Jungle was on Mondays. That might have been $5. Camouflage was on Tuesdays. That was free. There were several different things that happened on Wednesdays, rotating. Thursdays was Jungle Nation, which was put on by Breakbeat Science, and that probably cost $10. And then Fridays, there were assorted rave parties, or there might be, there was vinyl in the back room of vinyl, or there would be at the Roxy or at the Limelight became something else after. I don't know. There was a bunch of venues.
Wow,
they would all, crazy. And it was just like raves on the weekend. And then Saturday was Direct Drive, and then Sundays was a thing called Test Press Sundays.
Dang, that was a lot of information.
Like all of those parties.
Good, but you just broke it down right there as far as the
poppin'.
schedule. Was this in the late 90s at this point?
97 to 99.
So let's fast forward to now. Like, how has it changed since then? Because
I mean, the scene like almost died off because.
Wait, when did that happen? I want to hear about
like
that.
Around that time. Like I would say around 97. So prior to 97, up until 97, it was mainly jungle. 97 was like when drum and bass sort of spawned from jungle. They like split. Jungle was more like sample bass. Drum and bass was more using gear like. Sorry, I'm like losing the word. Synthesized, like not samples.
I did not know that.
I mean, some people might argue with that definition, but I would say that's pretty much how.
So they loop like drums, but they sped it up, like break beats or something. Sped up with more like bass.
Yeah, I mean, but that jungle was just sample bass, whereas drum and bass was like, we're going to use
our own sounds.
This gear we're going to use a virus, and we're going to use an MPC and like make our own beats and whatnot.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's really dope.
But the sound that was spawned, it went from being a very fun, like party atmosphere thing, like Raga Jungle and Jungle was very fun. Drum and bass was very serious. It was like people taking themselves very seriously that were like, we want this to be less fun. And it also, because of how dark it was, I would say it appealed to less women as well. And it made for a lot of very angry dude bros being at the front row of every show with their arms folded, scowling. And like at the time.
Define scowling, like,
trying to look, trying to spot your records, trying to like see what you're playing. And if it wasn't the whatever, like being like talking bad about you.
That's pretty lame. Because it's about fun. Any kind of music, it should be about fun, shouldn't it?
Well, it was, but then people just started taking it really seriously. And then, like, I would say this is sort of what kind of killed it, was like, at that time, there were only a few DJs that were getting booked nationally to play a lot. The main one, I would say, was Diesel Boy. And
I remember Diesel Boy.
From like, say, 91 until like 96, he played a very large variety of jungle drum and bass. And he would play chill stuff and jump up stuff and fun stuff and dance floor stuff and a little bit of dark stuff. But then at some point around like 97, he went full darkness. It was, I don't know. I've never spoken to him about this, so I don't know. But just as an observer, as a raver, as an attender of these parties, I noticed it get very dark around that time. And since he was the main one, like a lot of times the people would book him at raves, and then like girls didn't like it as much, and it just became less and less and less popular. And I feel like he wanted it to be that way. He did not want to see it get to be super popular because it was going to ruin like his little scene that he was a part of. I don't know if it was like he did this on purpose, if he thought about it, if it was just his music taste and that's what like dictated what happened.
Yeah.
But that's what happened. And then as the Rave Act and all these things where the government started cracking down, it was like a bunch of dominoes falling that like took the fun out of the jungle scene. And so like in New York, Giuliani cracked down. So there was no dancing. 1999, he came in with the cabaret law. Fuck you if you're dancing. Anyone dancing, get a fine. The venue would get fined. They'd get shut down.
Wait, for dancing?
Yeah, the cabaret law.
It's like that movie Footloose.
Yeah, it was. It was exactly like that. Not even funny. Like the venue that I had a residency at, they were trying to get to be fully legit. They were only like partially legit. And this law screwed them and they ended up closing the venue and we lost the venue. And
That's crazy.
And then after he was doing all this terribleness and ruining the scene, then September 11th happened and that was like the nail in the coffin for New York scene. Like that was it.
That was it.
And that like right after that is when I moved away anyway.
Yeah. Now from the Colorado rave, like when did you really fully get involved with the scene and start DJing yourself?
I mean, I fully got involved immediately. I never
like you got your own gear and
it took me 2 years to save up enough money to buy the gear.
And what does the gear entail? Can you break that? I'm just interested because I have samplers and stuff and
the gear that I needed then was 2 Techniques 1200 turntables. I had like a terrible, like the most cheapest Gemini Scratchmaster mixer, little 2-channel mixer, and I bought some big ass speakers. I don't know. I just bought whatever the cheapest thing I could afford. You needed to buy the needles with the head shells, these ortophons. It was so expensive. Yeah, it was all vinyl back then.
Yeah.
So, and then like records cost like $10 to $12 a piece. So it was like really expensive. Probably the whole setup, I think it cost maybe $1,500 or $2,000 total. And then records was like all the money that I would make went to records.
Yeah. When did it go from records to this?
Well, it went to CDs first.
CDs?
I would say CDs. I started, I don't know. I never owned CDJs at first. I just sort of learned to play on them from playing live. And then at some point in about 2006, maybe 2005, I started to play more CDs. But by 2007, I was all CDs. And then probably 5 years ago, I switched to USB from CDs.
Just 5 years ago.
I think so. Maybe it was longer.
Yeah,
it's hard to remember, but I'm like...
Are there purists like still in the scene that like just spin vinyl?
Yeah.
And they refuse to like
for sure
integrate into this new technology?
Yeah. There's a lot of people that still play vinyl. But, you know.
But that must be hard to lug all their stuff
It is.
around.
It's like... I don't miss anything about playing vinyl. I think the format fucking sucks. I'm sorry.
Why is that?
It just sucks. It's so inferior. Like the things skip. Like when you are a drum and bass DJ.
Yeah.
Like you would get there and you'd be playing in like the worst room of whatever party was going on, and they'd have the worst sound system and everything would suck. And then they'd have the thing set up on some precarious table that was like a card table or something, and everyone would be dancing and it would just make the needles skip, and you'd be like trying to hold this mix. And like back when it was vinyl, it was usually 1.5 to 2.5 minutes of intro that you have to get through before the drop. So like that's how long you'd have to hold this mix on this terrible setup where everything's moving all the time. You're like and then it would just skip and you'd be like, fuck.
Yeah.
Now you got to start all over again, or it's too late and you don't even have enough time and your record runs out and you got to start again and you look like an idiot.
Oh, that's crazy. When did you get in, are you part of Insomnia as well?
No.
Okay. How did you meet Caroline then?
I don't know. Probably just going to parties. I can't remember how we actually met.
Do you have a tight group of homies that you DJ, like your DJ homies?
I don't.
So you're like a lone wolf?
I'm like a lone wolf.
Then I'm interested in that. So how do you survive in today's era as far as like networking and like, don't you have to like kind of network with other DJs? Like, hey, can I do your show? Or you want to do my, like, how do you survive then? And how do you get booked? Do you have management or do you book your own shows, or how does that even work?
Okay, so I think my own path was unique because I was probably the first female American drum and bass DJ.
What?
That I can think of. I can't think of any that I knew of before me from the U.S. DJ Rap was the only one I'd heard of from the U.K.
You were the first?
I mean, if you can find me one that was before me, let me know.
You heard it first at the Steebee Weebee Show, DJ Reid Speed exclusive interview.
I mean, I know now.
Damn, you're the first.
Some friends of mine, like Star Eyes, she was kind of starting to play on the West Coast, probably maybe around the same time, but I didn't know her and she didn't know me and we didn't know each other. But I worked at a record store, so I started getting booked nationally before anyone else because I worked at the United States first drum and bass record store, Breakbeat Science. I worked there from 98 to 2000, so that was like a big deal.
How'd you get a job there?
Someone who was supposed to have a job there ended up getting a semester abroad, and I had been going there since the day they opened because it...
Just like, hanging out?
Yeah, well, I bought all my records there.
Yeah, they knew you.
They did. And I had already interned at this other competing store, and that guy wouldn't give me a job when I was done interning. Well, he wanted me to keep interning, and I'm like, I'm just working for free. This sucks. Like, you should give me a job. And he was like, no. And so then when my friend got the job at Breakbeat Science, but then he couldn't take it, he's like, oh, do you think, like, could you just, like, cover for me while I have this semester abroad? And I was like, if they let me. And they let me. And then he never came back. So I just kept the job.
Dang, that's dope.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a cool job. Like, it didn't pay anything, but it paid like $5 an hour. But I realized immediately that I had all these customers that would call. So back then we didn't have internet. So if people wanted to order records, you had to call on the phone.
Or fill out the slips?
No, there was no slip. You called on the phone and I would play you the records over the phone.
Whoa.
One at a time. One record, one person, one time, one order.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is before cell phones.
This was before cell phones. This is like your landline. It's like you're on your mom's phone.
Explain to them what a landline is.
Before we had cell phones, we had phones.
Explain to them what a payphone is.
Oh, God.
A payphone was an actual phone outside of a 7-Eleven, and you would have to put a quarter inside of it. And then you dial the number, and you got, like 30 seconds to a minute?
Something like that.
Something like that.
I don't think people were using those to call Breakbeat Science because they would have been paying like hundreds of dollars because it would take like 3 hours to make this order.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this person lives in Texas. I'm going to put my mixtape in their order. And so I sent out my mixtapes to all of my customers. And then they all started booking me.
You did that on the sly?
No, I mean, it wasn't on the sly. I just did it.
Okay, so you just did it.
But I think everyone who worked there was kind of stupid for not doing it before I started working there. I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, you have all these customers. Like, you should just send them your mixtapes.
Did you have? And then you had your contact on the mixtape.
Yeah.
Dude, that's brilliant, dude. Business, dude. OG business. That's
hustling.
OG.
That's how we used to. That's how I made my first network.
Woo!
So because I was the first female drum and bass DJ to get anyone to pay attention,
first one.
I was also a resident at the biggest rave crew of New York called Stuck on Earth. I was like a resident of their raves. I was resident of this party called Camouflage.
What does a resident even mean? Explain to the viewers and listeners.
I would get to DJ at all of their events, which were huge.
Like a monthly.
Like they did a lot of events. So sometimes they did monthlies, they did quarterlies, they did probably at least 12 events every year. Plus they did weekly events from time to time.
Awesome, dude.
But then I had a weekly residency at this direct drive and then Camouflage, all of these things. So I was DJing 3 to 5 nights a week, going to college full time, working at the record store full time, and then on the weekends I would sometimes go travel to other cities. So I was like hustling really hard when I was super young. So I kind of got my name out early, and then being like the first and only woman that was like doing that at the time, I definitely got a lot of attention and got a lot of bookings just from that. And then at some point I was getting so many bookings, the people at the record store were like, you only really work on the weekends and you're like not here all the time. You need to decide if you want to go play these gigs or you want to keep working here. And I was like, all right, I'm sorry. I'm going to go take these gigs. I quit.
That's awesome.
And then like a year after I quit the store, my name had grown so much. The store had a label and they signed me to a mix CD deal. So in that era, that was like the pinnacle of you've made it as a DJ. If you got picked up by a record label for a mix CD deal, you were an A-list headliner. So I made it to like the very bottom of the A-list of drum and bass DJs like in the early 2000s. So from there, I did one CD. I did my first tour for that. I did another CD. I did another tour for that. And then the whole mix CD format imploded and it collapsed. And then they were like, we're not going to do any more. The record label shut down. And I was already living out here by then. So then I got in. I did a bunch of TV show, DJ'd on the Jamie Kennedy show, on some like pilots, on some weird things that never even got made.
I'm a fan of Jamie Kennedy.
He was pretty funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Boiler Room?
Cool experiment.
Damn good movie. Keep going. You know
Malibu's Most Wanted.
Malibu's Most Wanted, dude. Jamie Kennedy. If you're there and you're watching the Steebee Weebee Show podcast, please, you're always welcome as a guest on the Steebee Weebee Show. Jamie Kennedy is always welcome. You're blowing my freaking mind right now. You freaking paved the way for a lot of these cats.
Okay, so then after all that, I started my own record label 10 years ago, 2009. I started my label, Play Me Records, because I was tired of, well, I had done a bunch of other things too. In the meantime, from the time I quit doing the TV shows, I started a breaks party with a friend of mine named Josh. We did this thing called Icebreaker. And then we were doing the side room of Insomniac used to do a party called Function, which was a drum and bass Wednesday night in LA in like 2005. Ooh. We used to book New School breaks for the side room of that party. But our room was so popular at the time that the room started getting more people wanted to come in our room. And then they basically just kind of like stole it from us and just cut us out of the whole thing. So then after that, we formed a trio, myself, my friend Josh, and his brother Matt. We formed a trio called Breakdown. We entered a remix contest for Crafty Cuts, the Bass Phenomenon song, and we won his contest. So then we started producing as Breakdown. We did this for like 2 years. We did all this cool stuff as Breakdown. We had like a bunch of number ones on Beatport, a couple of number ones on Hype Machine, doing like New School breaks and Fidget House, which is like the precursor to Bass House of today.
Well, yeah. Will you explain what
yeah. Oh, charts. Like, so Hype Machine was like a thing that cataloged all of like bootlegs, and I don't know how to qualify what that is. It was like an internet chart, like of bootlegs of what was being downloaded the most on all these like shady, possibly illegal download sites, because all the bootlegs were not legal. But in that time, between like 2003 and like 2008, you could get away with bootlegging anything because online digital music sales had not really become a thing yet. So you could really just get away with doing anything and kind of like giving it away for free. SoundCloud wasn't a thing yet. Record labels hadn't caught on to any of this stuff yet, and they really didn't know. So like we were doing that, and then we were also producing our own music and doing a lot of remixes for stuff. And then those guys totally stabbed me in the back and like told me they were going to end the group, and then they tried to keep doing the group without me, but like unfortunately nobody cared, and that was the end of Breakdown after they forced me out. Wow. So after that, all of those experiences, I was like, God damn it, people suck. I'm so sick of everyone, and I'm going to make a record label so that people, like anyone who's tired of being screwed over by the music industry, has a safe place to come and get their music released and get accounted to for their music that they've released and get paid for it. Because I was like, why is this so hard? So many of my friends who were drum and bass producers. Okay, fun fact. Like the whole reason that heavy bass music is as good as it is today is because a bunch of drum and bass producers were trying to be drum and bass producers, and drum and bass wouldn't let them in. And so they were like, well, now there's dubstep, and now there's like bass house, and there's all these other genres. So people like Kill the Noise, 12th Planet, some of the leading people, Feed Me, these are all drum and bass producers that were doing drum and bass a long time before, and just like, well, not Feed Me, he was like one who just switched later, but all the Americans who were doing drum and bass and couldn't get any love and couldn't get anyone in the UK to put out their music, started making other stuff and became wildly successful, and then dramatically increased like the quality of the music, like the complexity and the bass factor of it. So cool story, bro.
Yeah. My mind went blank. Because usually, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Usually, because I usually cut my guests off, but like, I'm trying. No, I don't want to cut you off because you're dropping so much knowledge that and usually, it's usually a lot of my guests don't. You have like, your thought process is so like you could talk for like big chunks.
I'm a font of useless knowledge.
But I love it. So what is your label called?
My label's called Play Me Records, and we have a sister label called Play Me 2.
And
Play Me is like the main label. Play Me 2 is more for like up and coming artists.
And then what are you? Is it pigeonholed to one type of genre, or are you open to take different forms of music?
It's like all forms of heavy bass music, but
heavy bass music.
Definitely, mostly focused on drum and bass, dubstep, hard trap, and like, bass house, breaks, things like that. Like nothing minimal, only maximal.
Right. And what kinds of so how many acts do you have signed to your label as we speak right now?
I mean, we've released over 350 artists from around the world. We have over 2,000 titles that we've released in our 10 years. Yeah, it's a lot.
And then what are the different ways of getting paid music? Like, are you guys involved with like ASCAP or publishing?
Yeah, we do all of that. We do. We're registered with ASCAP and BMI as publishers. As writers, you can choose to register with whoever you want. We also have to register with like Harry Fox for the mechanical royalties. And then we have sub-publishers for other countries that deal with the same kind of stuff, but in other countries where we don't have jurisdiction over that. So they deal with that there.
Yeah. What are mechanical royalties? Yeah,
That's
I've never heard of that before.
Okay, so that sort of harkens back to like the old days. I'm not even sure what they actually account for now, but it used to be things like sheet music, and but we still get things there, so I can't actually say what they account for anymore, but we are registered with them and we get checks from them, so we know that they're doing something.
That's so crazy. As far as if there's a listener who's an aspiring DJ, like, do you have any suggestions on like what they could do to get to your position?
Okay, well that's a loaded question, because if what you want to do is be touring nationally or internationally, what you need to do first is be a producer. The way that I made it does not apply anymore. No one cares anymore if you can DJ. Like, I might be one of the best DJs in the world, but literally being a great DJ is not even a required skill set for DJing in 2019. What are you talking
about?
Not required.
So all you have to do is bring your MP3 player, iPod?
What I'm saying is that the average person who goes to shows doesn't know and sadly does not care if you actually possess the skill of DJing. And now with technology, I have taught 10-year-olds how to DJ in 15 minutes because the technology is so, if your brain understands what you're supposed to be doing, it's dead easy to do the beat matching part. Now, the part about track selection and having a flow, you can't replicate that, and that only comes from years of experience. And I would like to think that that is still an art that moves people in a different way. But
what about blending? Like blending one?
Yeah, I mean, that's like,
just, you could teach them that too.
Yeah, because with the technology,
it doesn't
drift. It doesn't do it for you, but it doesn't drift. If you are playing at 87 beats per minute and both your songs are at 87 beats per minute, that thing's going to stay at 87 beats per minute. It's not like vinyl. It has no drift. It's not going to go off. It's not going to fall off. So it's much easier to do the technical aspects of DJing, which, great. Cool, whatever. So if you want to be a touring DJ, you need to be a producer first, because the only way you're going to get shows is if you are producing songs that other big artists are playing. So you got to become a producer. You got to master production. You got to get your tunes to, whether you go the route of signing to a label or if you just self-release your stuff. Many ways are equally valid. It just depends what way feels right to you, because some people will say, oh, you don't need a label anymore. That's totally true. You don't. But if you're the kind of person who's not good at self-promotion, you absolutely still need a label, because the thing that you're not good at, someone else got to do it for you, or no one's ever going to hear about you, because there's so much music nowadays.
Yeah, there's so much.
Can you entail what a producer does today in like music like that?
Okay.
What does it entail for a producer to do?
A producer.
It's not just doing the track, right? Coming up with the track.
No, you make the track. You produce the track.
You produce the track. You do
learn how to use.
You arrange the drums.
You learn Ableton or Logic or Pro Tools or Fruity Loops or Acid Pro or whatever it is you use. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
But you will write the song from start to finish yourself.
You know what guy I like that I know we're in a different era, but the guy I look up to is, remember Moby?
Yeah, Moby's great.
I thought he did it right. I mean, cuz he had like 2 or 3 jams that it was on commercials, or it was on this, it was on that. And
yeah, Moby's like a fascinating experiment in dance music. He's like,
is he still relevant, Moby?
I mean, is he still relevant? He's relevant in the way that I don't know if he's still making music, but he's. I mean,
he made his money.
He made his money. He made his mark, and now he's using his platform to be an activist, which I actually respect. I think it's great what he's doing. But he had a different path. You know, in his era, you made the tracks. The things you made the tracks with cost a lot of money. You needed all this gear, and it was very difficult. Now, if you have,
we're not even mentioning this, you had to rent out a studio.
Yeah, you
like
needed
the studio time.
Exactly.
Now you could just do it right here.
Exactly.
On this freaking thing.
Now you can do it all in your computer
or on your iPad.
Don't need
not an iPad. Sorry. But your computer.
Yeah, you could do it all in the computer.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot of resources that we have now. I didn't have any resources when I was trying to learn how to produce. It was like, oh my God, I have no idea.
But you did it though. That's the point. You still found a way to do it. That's why you got to respect that.
I mean, I wish I was better. Like, it's one of the things I'm so hard on myself about is that I'm
don't
like,
be.
I wish I was. I'm not as good as the stuff I like to play. So I'm always like really hard on myself. But I'm like, whatever. You know what I mean? I learned at a different time, and I've been doing so many other things. It's you know, everyone's path is completely different. But
I had, just out of my own curiosity, like, what's your rate now, like, to book you, and what was it when you first began? Like, how does that work in your world? Like,
wait, what's the question?
To book you, like to book.
How much does it cost?
Yeah. Well, like, what was it like? Where did you start out? And like, what's your rate
when I
now?
started, I would just play for free. I was like basically a resident at all these parties, and I would just play. Like, they would tell me that they were going to pay me, and then they wouldn't, and like I didn't do anything about it because I just was happy to be playing.
Yeah. Well, at least you got drink tickets, maybe.
I don't think I did.
Oh, okay.
I was like not eight. I wasn't 21. I was only like 18 when I started playing out.
Dang,
so I wasn't
18 playing out. Oh my God.
They would have to sneak me into all the 21 and over parties.
Yeah.
Like the one I was resident at on Tuesdays was 21 and over, and they would always sneak me in. But I didn't even really drink. I don't really drink. I don't know. But then once I started having people who I wasn't friends with hit me up to book me, I don't know. I probably started at like $150, and now it's like can go up to like 3,000 for like a festival.
Damn.
Like, but you know,
$3K, huh?
It just depends on what the event is. I really, for
that
me,
ain't bad.
For me, it's all about. I would never want to charge a promoter. Now I have a booking agent, so they handle all these things.
How'd you get a booking agent? I'm just curious.
Because when you have been doing something for
so
long
long,
enough and
yeah,
you've
they know
established
you.
a name, people will come to you and want to represent you.
Yeah.
Because like. Even when I didn't have, there was a time when I quit my agency because they were getting me bookings I didn't want, and then people would just come to me directly. And I did it myself for like a year when I quit that agency because I was just like whatever. But
I need a podcast agent.
It's too much work. It's a lot of work to do your own bookings. It's just, and you can do it if you're very organized and like detail oriented about doing all this stuff. But it's annoying.
I was scared to hit you up. I didn't know you. You know, all the people I've got, guess what? I have to, well, Craig's got me like a couple, but I get like 90-something%. I have to like text random people.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we get people on the label, you know? Like, I might hear someone's music that I like, and I'll just message them. I'll message them on SoundCloud or Instagram or Facebook or whatever.
You do it on your own.
Yeah, a lot of times I do. And a lot of times people hit us up, you know? But it's like... It's the same thing, you know what I mean? It's like with bookings, it's like you just establish yourself and whatever. But for me, the most important thing is that if I'm playing a show, I don't want to charge more than what the market will bear. Like if I'm going to draw 150 people to a show and it costs $10, then I'm only going to charge you $1,500 for the show because I don't want you to pay more than you could make from your show. Because if you don't walk away making money from the show, it's not a good deal for both of us. We want it to be good for everyone.
Right. But if you're doing that like once or twice a month, that's
yeah, it's great.
Cool. That's
no,
pretty cool.
I mean, it's a good hustle if you can get it. It's just like you have to work incredibly hard to get to that point. It doesn't just happen. It's like so much stuff you have to do.
It took you since you've been at it since the 90s.
Yeah.
96
and it took a lot. I don't think I started getting paid over $1,000 until probably like at least 6 or 7 years into it.
So kids, don't think you're going to get paid off the jump. You know, you're going to have to pay your dues.
I mean, you might. If you become a very famous producer right off the bat,
you
can skip directly to like $5,000 a show immediately, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's rare. Most people, it doesn't happen like that for them. They have to like pay dues and like. The best thing you can do is like go out, make friends, attend all the parties you want to play at, get to know the people that book there, show up, be a friendly face.
Yeah.
Be there and like just be a person that's fun to be around, that's out and about, and like when it's appropriate, link them to your SoundCloud. Be like, hey, I'd love to play here. Here's a mix that shows that you're a relevant DJ for their event. And usually that's a great way to get your foot in the door.
That's great, yeah. Because I'm sure, I don't know, like, my whole the fan base or, like, whatever, the demographics, but I'm guessing a lot of them are, like, aspiring artists, musicians, DJs, whatever. But once they listen to this, so I think it'll give them a better idea of like what it takes to get to your level. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Already? She's blowing my mind though.
Sorry.
You blew my. You hit it out the ballpark. I didn't think. I had no idea it was you dropped so much knowledge as far as like just your experiences or whatnot. So what's in store? Where could people check you out? Like as far as like your next gigs or like, do you have a website?
I mean, all of my events are at facebook.com/DJ Reid Speed. Please don't smoke that in here.
I know. I've been
I know you're like fiending.
I've been fiending.
ReidSpeed. Facebook is /DJ Reid Speed. Everywhere else on the internet, it's just at Reid Speed, including SoundCloud.com /Reid Speed, Instagram at Reid Speed, Twitter at Reid Speed. My label is at Play Me Records on every platform, Spotify, SoundCloud.
ReidSpeed.
That's right.
Reid Speed.
Yeah.
If people have music they want to send to your label, they could just...
Yeah.
Yes, I have a demo.
Listen.
I'm like, I don't know the URL offhand. We have a demo on the Facebook page for Play Me Records. We have a link to our demo where the demos get dropped to.
I'm sorry.
So you can go on our Facebook and click that link on the Play Me Records Facebook to submit your demos. You could also message me. If you message me on the fan page, I tend to check those messages and I will check your demos. But they all need to be private SoundCloud links that have never been shared, that are nothing public and nothing that's already been released. Originals only. Don't send me remixes of anything. Please don't go remixing our tracks and send them to me and tell me that it's cool. That's really
original. That she wants originals.
We've had a lot of people that have done unauthorized remixes of things, or like we've had a remix contest for things, and people who didn't win will sometimes like take the art and post their stuff, and we're like, hey, we appreciate where you're coming from with that, but it's like you can't go and put the official art on it when it's not been officially released. So
I'm just letting you know, this is the first episode where I did not vape.
I appreciate that very much.
Or do any kind of nicotine.
Do you want
every single
weed?
No. I'm gonna wait because I made it this far.
But do you do the weed?
No.
Okay.
I've been sober for 10 years. I get paranoid off it.
Okay.
So, dude, you were awesome.
Thank
that
you.
was fantastic.
Hopefully that was informative.
It was very informative. Maybe you could suggest more guests, and maybe you could do a part 2 or part 3, because I think you have a lot more wisdom and information to give to the viewers and listeners. What do you think?
I would love to.
Okay, great.
I'd be happy to recommend people for you or whatevs.
I would. Dude, that was what do you think? I mean, that was so much info. I think it was so informative. I think you did it. You knocked it out the ballpark. I'm proud of myself as well. You know what? I made it this far. I'm gonna put this right here.
Give me a fist bump. Thanks, man.
I'm gonna you said all your info?
I think
your
so.
Social?
Yep.
Okay. Do you do your Instagram as well?
I did. It's all at Reid Speed and at Blame Me Records.
Okay. So, with that being said, we have a Patreon attached to the show. Patreon.com/Steebee Weebee. If you want to keep the show going, pledge, become a patron. Okay? We have 4 new patrons this week. Lee Kizzy, Hobo Socks, Wayman, Cody Abel. Shout out to Michael Martinez for buying some of my music on my Bandcamp. Thank you, Michael. You can buy my music at SteebieWeebieBandcamp.com. The Instagram attached to the show is Instagram/QUANGOU. But most importantly, I have a new website, SteebieWeebieShow.com. If you like this Little Ray shirt, you can only get them exclusively at SteebieWeebieShow.com. Get yours today. Shout out to the homies Necro Electric and Lasco Project. Support their podcast and WFE. And WFE. A shout out again to Scentbird for sponsoring this episode. Thank you. We love the smells. Just send your packages to Steebie's P.O. Box, 1425 North Cherokee Avenue, P.O. Box 1391, LA, California 90093. We do have a Little Ray's World right now. Hey, give me another pound. That was fantastic. And we're out of here. Welcome to Little Ray's World Show. All I gotta say is kids' minds must grow. I got abducted by some aliens dropped in snow. Whoa. Stuck into a world I do not know. So join me in adventures now. And I promise not to have a cow. My name is Little Ray. Hey, hey. My name is Little Ray. Hey, hey, hey. So welcome to my world. To all the boys and girls. Welcome to Little Ray's world. Hee-haw! Beep, beep, beep. I don't see him, man. What the hell you looking at, Beep? I don't see this thing you're talking about. Beep, beep, beep. Wait a minute. I think I do see it. Looks like a god dang pebble, man. Hey, mister, what's up, man? So you're telling me you used to be an outlaw biker who rode a goddamn Harley Davidson, and what happened after that, man? And you rode it recklessly, didn't you? So what happened was that one day you decided to show off on the road with your goddamn Harley Davidson, and you wanted to pass a rental car, and you swerved to the right and hit a pebble and died, didn't you? Well, that's a goddamn shame, man. But me and Beep are gonna leave you alone. But we did write a song about you. Your name is Mano the Pebble, isn't it? Yeah. Well, just stay put and listen, man. This one's about Mano the Pebble, man. Mano the Pebble, man. Mano is a pebble and he isn't from the ghetto, but he had an obsession to be a rebel. His temper burns low like water in a kettle, and his Harley let go, burning rubber like a Recco. Down the damn street his motorcycle without pedals, passing meadows with them geckos, craving pasta pesto, speeding like the road runner, like he drank too much espresso. The Lord is my shepherd and I am his vessel now. Mano tried to pass a moving car, not so nestled in a lane that got heckled, and his bike had hit a pebble. He should have slowed down, now his body's like a freckle. In the cool wind all I hear is an echo. Once a tough biker turned to a little pebble. Oh man, oh the pebble, oh man, oh the pebble, oh man, oh the pebble, oh man, oh the pebble is a little piece of rock. Join us again on another episode of Little Ray's World in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, folks. And make sure you go to the new website, www.steebeeweebeshow.com, man. Let's get her done.